Good morning, everyone. We have Coach Payton for the conference call. Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Patrick, and good morning, Coach. We'll begin with Arnie Stapleton of the Associated Press.
Good morning,
Good
Sean.
morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, there was a lot of revelry and relief in Denver, with the Broncos back in the playoffs and with a quarterback like Bo. But I know you guys aren't satisfied just to reach the playoffs. So I'm wondering, is that an organic mood or mindset, or is it something you have to be deliberate about, in terms of keeping your foot on the gas and putting the celebrations behind you as you prepare for Buffalo?
Look, I think that's a good question. As a coach, you try to get in a routine where you embrace and celebrate the wins. You have that 24-hour rule. We hear it all the time with the losses. But I think most importantly is look, this group, I know they're young, but they understand the process. And so, you wait around late after our game to find out, all right, what time are we playing? We're playing on Sunday, puts us in a pretty normal routine relative to the work week. To your point, look, getting in the tournament is part of it, but then, man, putting your best foot forward and preparing to play your best game against a real good football team. That's where the focus is. And I think I probably, as the head coach, pay more attention to, all right, what are these things that can possibly distract from that process outside the building or even inside the building? The euphoria of we're back in the playoffs. We finally, have gotten back in, and trying to monitor that and understand how that may, or try to prevent that from impacting the edge and the preparation. That I think that comes up often as a head coach sometimes. And look, vice versa during the season when the sky's falling, making sure your players understand that it really is not. It's just cloudy and rainy and it's stormy, but it's going to be sunny again. And so I would say a lot of my morning has been thinking about what you just asked me.
Nick Kosmider, The Athletic.
Hey, Sean, I wanted to follow up on something you said after the game about quarterbacks coming in, and one of the biggest leaps being adjusting to that third down a pressure menu and Bo's sort of ability to go through that speed course. What was it about him during that process that helped you guys really be pretty confident that he was going to be able to do that? Because, avoiding kind of problems on third down, even when you didn't convert, became, kind of a big thing for you guys this year.
Yeah, I wish there was an exact science for that. I don't think that there is. We try our best to go through the post-draft or the pre-draft process, in the meetings and the workouts. Your tape is your best evidence. How is he playing on third down in college? And then, of course, I've told the story. We typically would send an installation packet of 3 days, maybe at 5 p.m. the day before we get there for an individual meeting and an individual workout. So 5 p.m. the email comes across, and then we're going to be there at 9 a.m. the next day. But the problem is we've sent them more information than 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. allows. And we're just trying to gauge, how quickly they can process and learn. And yet there's still no guarantee. But the best indicator is really the tape, and it's not the fact that he played 5-6 years. It's what's happening when he's playing, and so and then when they arrive, you've got to be willing to slow that part of it down, the third down part of it down. And so because each week there's a different pressure package. There's some things that take place that, there'll be a pressure there'll be two pressures this Sunday we will not have had a chance to prep for, that Sean and Buffalo will have, and just the same way we will. And so that's generally one of the harder downs, though, for rookie players.
Aaron McKee, Altitude.
Coach, after the game, almost every single one of your players talked about the chip on the shoulder, people doubting them this season. I'm curious what you think about that as a motivator, and did you carry any chips on your shoulder going into this season?
Well, look, we all like a challenge, right? I mean, it's not necessarily, I guess, just like a challenge when someone says X. The first thing I think of is, all right, who is that someone? When someone during the draft says, well, this is, then, you guys have heard me talk about it. But I think that I think you're looking for competitive players and competitive people in this industry. And so I remember in the offseason talking with McVay, and the year prior for them, they were $70 million in dead cap. In other words, almost a third of your team's budget for talent is unavailable. And we had a joint practice with them, and they had a lot of young, I couldn't tell you who the players were, young undrafted players. And it was impressive what they did that season, making it to the postseason. And, sometimes those type of challenges, rolling up your sleeves. And so I think your players, certainly do have a little bit of a chip when they see those initial prognostications or whatever. And then eventually, when you're in this long enough, you tune that stuff out, because half those people don't have a clue what they're talking about. But yeah. I mean, who's done this before with over 80 million? All those things you think about. No one's done that before. Let's do it. Let's be the first ones.
Mike Kliss, 9 News.
Yeah, Sean, Vance Joseph drawing some interest as a head coaching candidate. What can you say about some of the characteristics he has that would make him a real good coach the second time around? And is it, do you find in your experience, is that a distraction, playoff week when your assistants have these interviews?
No, I think, look, we learned to compartmentalize. I think it's a great sign. Number one for Vance, he's smart. He's a great communicator. He's got a very calm, I would say, strong voice. And man, his players play extremely hard for him. And he's been a great addition to our staff. For my early years in New Orleans, I can recall Mr. Benson, the late Mr. Benson, came down. We'd been winning and had a number of coaches that had interview opportunities. I think one season we had 3 or 4. And he said, Coach, we got a lot of interest in our coaches now. What do you think about that? And I said, Mr. Benson, we shouldn't worry. I said, we should only worry when there's no interest. And I think that I think trying to find and hire quality coaches that are passionate about what they're doing, guys like Vance, his expertise. And look, history's told us on a number of occasions, the second experience for guys oftentimes can be very positive. So from a distraction standpoint, none of that can take place until next week. I'm sure, all of our focus is on Buffalo. You watched the game last night, and the best interview Aaron Glenn could ever give was for 3 hours last night. There's not one thing he can say or do to a GM or an owner that was more impressive than that game. And the same thing relative to Vance or these coaches that we want to see, and certainly guys on our staff. I think Vance is going to be a head coach again, and the best interview happens early in the postseason. When you're winning, things are shinier, and I think that goes for coaches too being hired.
Chris Thomas in the Gazette.
Yeah, hi, Sean. Along the lines of the defense, you guys had some ups and downs on defense late in the season until getting the shutout yesterday. How is the defense coming along, and what are the challenges of trying to slow down Josh Allen?
Well, listen, we shift gears completely. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges. He's had an MVP season. He's strong. I think, look, it's one thing to get to him, but then the other thing is, how many times do we see him come off of the initial tackler? And so, how do you bring him down? Who can bring him down? He does such a good job with plays that are broken down. And so there's a lot that goes into that. But the focus this week will be obviously shifting all towards Buffalo and how to slow down a team that is playing as hot as anyone in the league.
Parker Gabriel, the Denver Post.
Hey, Sean, I want to go back to, you said when you talked to McVay in the offseason, especially, with the number of young players that you ended up relying on, obviously Bo, but so many other guys too. I mean, is some of that just a function of where you were from a cap perspective? Or I guess, what did you maybe learn about, seeing young guys through mistakes early in the season and letting them grow, so that they're in this position at this time of year?
It's the idea that, look, we'd all like to go out and shop for X number of groceries, but we're going to have to go down a different aisle. And we're going to have to develop quickly and not be afraid of playing younger players earlier, maybe than normal, and kind of bow up a little bit here and take on this challenge, and then find these guys that are like-minded, that are competitive, that I use that term, young and hungry can be dangerous, and it's true. There's a little naivete to not knowing even, and so it's inspiring as a coach to work with players like that.
Coach, that appears to be all the questions we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us.